Am I the asshole for pouring wine on my husband's ex-girlfriend? A few days ago, I told my mother-in-law that I'd bring her grandkids, our gorgeous twins who were 5 years old, to her house for dinner. It was a gesture of good faith, as she and father-in-law had babysat for an entire weekend, while hubby and I took some time to ourselves. Mother-in-law decided to make that dinner a grand occasion and invited the entire family over. Fine with me, the more the merrier. Except half an hour after we arrive, Jo walks in. The entirety of her back out, titties popping and all. Now, Jo's my husband's ex-girlfriend, who also happens to be a favorite of mother-in-law and a longtime friend of hubby's family. I don't know why they didn't work out, but frankly, I don't care. Long story short, Jo does what she always does at these functions: touch my husband inappropriately, whisper in his ear, try to eat off his plate, etc. She went as far as to try and steal my seat next to him at the dinner table. Luckily, my sister-in-law was able to stop her. Hubby is generally okay with putting his foot down. If she does anything truly egregious, he does put a stop to it, but to him, her touchy behavior and the way that she tends to hover around him and try to get his attention don't fall in that category. I told myself to ignore her and not let her get to me, but she pulled me aside later that evening and said absolutely horrible things to me, telling me that it was only a matter of time before my husband left me and that he was using me as a breeding plant, etc. Fun fact, I am currently pregnant again, and at that point, I had had enough. So I dumped my drink on her and walked away. Jo absolutely lost it and walked out of the house. Hubby's extended family generally has a good opinion of me, so no one thinks that I did this on purpose. I did, and I'd do it again. Preach. But my husband knows better. He pulled me to the side to confront me about it, and was surprisingly angry. Did I make a bit of a scene? Sure, but his anger wasn't proportional to that at all. If you can't tell, hubby's the type of person that doesn't like to make a scene, especially around his family. I've complained about his proximity to Jo multiple times before this all went down. I've asked him to cut contact with her and basically just ignore her presence, and he's refused on the basis that she's a family friend. Basically, he thought that I was overreacting every time I'd bring her up. But I'm tired of being the bigger person. Why should I have to watch her throw herself at him and rise above? No. That wench got what was coming to her, and my actions were long overdue. We argued back and forth about it for a while before I eventually revealed what she had said to me at the dinner. He understood my anger at that point, but I don't think that it should have even gotten that far for him to understand why I don't want her around. The fact that he would trust the character of an ex over his wife of 10+ years and the mother of his children is baffling and incredibly hurtful. I explained this to him, and he adamantly disagrees and gives excuses. So now we're here. Hubby thinks that I should have brought up what she said from the beginning. To me, this issue isn't what she said in and of itself, but her behavior as a whole. As a disclaimer, I know my husband is not cheating on me with this woman. We spend every waking second either together or with the kids. He wouldn't have time to. I trust him completely as well. It just bothers me how comfortable and desperate that woman is. Mother-in-law loves her, and Jo can do no wrong in her eyes. So I suppose that's where she gets the confidence from. That aside, I don't understand why he allows her to come near him in the first place. Am I the asshole? Edit. No, I was not drinking while pregnant. I have not told my husband's family that I'm pregnant, as we haven't passed the first trimester yet. Hubby had gotten me juice in a wine glass, but because no one knew, the narrative became that I threw wine. Edit 2. Got a couple of people asking how taking the kids to dinner is a reward for mother-in-law. She had been asking for us to come around to dinner for a while, and is always asking for an excuse to see our kids. We don't live very close by anymore, so in-person visits are rare nowadays. She also really enjoys cooking for everyone and would do weekly dinners when hubby and I still lived in her area. My husband's family is Italian, if that gives any idea. First and foremost, definitely got a husband problem. He's lapping this up, he loves it. He doesn't want this to stop. Look how much fun he's having with you, OP. How is that not obvious to you? Yes, he doesn't like scenes, but I reckon he secretly loves the scene that you two are causing over him. That's what makes the most sense here. How do you not see that? And obviously you have a mother-in-law problem too, because she's aiding and abetting Joe in messing with you as often as possible. Your mother-in-law knows that Joe shouldn't have been at this function. She knows what Joe does. How can you not tell that she loves the drama too? This is a dramatic Italian family, OP. You got a big problem there. I think you're not the asshole for throwing the drink, because that's really funny, but I don't think that's going to solve the Joe problem either. Careless Welder says, not the asshole. Your husband may not be cheating, but he sure likes the effing attention that she gives him. I hope you're well aware that you have a husband problem. Murphy replies, any decent man wouldn't let another woman touch him and give him inappropriate attention. OP has a husband problem and is refusing to see it. He shouldn't have let it get this far. OP needs to get a backbone and tell her husband to stop acting this way or she is leaving. Mark Your Side says, not the asshole. Your husband's ex is way out of line. You've been patient, but you're not obligated to tolerate her disrespect. Your husband needs to understand that his loyalty should be with you and not his ex. Following that up, OP comes back with a kind of update. I ended up showing hubby the comments and PMs that I got from my post a couple of days after, which were largely against him. I didn't anticipate it swaying his opinion much, and it didn't. In fact, it made the situation worse. He didn't like the overwhelming majority of comments claiming that he liked the attention, but he does like it, and thought that I embellished details about Joanna's behavior in the post. I did not, and in many cases, I downplayed just how crazy some of her actions are. Manipulation's so good. I asked him if his mum even liked me, and he didn't even respond to the question. He looked at me, and we sat in silence for a full effing minute. Oh no! He can't even come up with a good lie. That's insane. Many people under my previous post said that I was crazy if I thought mother-in-law would invite hubby's ex to dinner with his wife and kids there as a show of respect and goodwill. Call me crazy? You're crazy, OP. But I bought into the whole she's a family friend crap and continually let it slide. I cried non-stop for days after our conversation. Maybe I'm an idiot and I should have seen the signs, but I genuinely thought that me and my mother-in-law had a decent relationship, especially now that I have the twins. There was some stuff that happened early on in hubby and I's relationship that caused some discord, but I thought that we'd moved past it all. Clearly not. I think it's much more likely that she likes her grandkids and just tolerates the vehicle that produced them. Hubby and I stood at somewhat of an impasse for a week after. I'm very loving by nature, but I've just about had it with this situation, so I was irritable, quiet, just a complete 180 from my usual self. We talked again and he said he'd try to be more assertive with Joe. I told him there'd be no need, since I had no plans on going to his mother's house anymore. Me not going means the twins can't either, since he can't very well be expected to entertain his family and look after the children that he helped create. Note the sarcasm. It didn't seem very sarcastic to me. Though that does work in my favor, since mother-in-law loves the twins, and he apparently cannot stand to disappoint her. The impasse continued. I've had a few complications with my pregnancy since then. Baby and I are okay, nothing too worrisome, and there's been so many other things happening in our lives that the frigid air between us has slowly started to melt. We have not resolved the situation at all, just glossed over it in favor of more pressing matters. I really do need him right now, and I'm not necessarily mad that things are starting to go back to normal. I just know that it's going to become a thing the next time his mum throws an event. I will convince myself that this time around will be fine, and it won't, because it's never fine. But I'm unsure of how to bring up the issue again without seeming like I'm dragging up the past. It truly does drive me crazy, even more so now that I realize mother-in-law's kindness isn't fully genuine. Is there any advice on bringing this up carefully, on resolving this issue once and for all? I'm at my wit's end because I adore this man in every other aspect, but I can't keep putting up with this. Away Understanding says, I'm still of the thought that he likes the attention. He's not shutting down her antics. He's not insisting that people respect you and your marriage. I know you adore him, but does he really adore you? It doesn't look that way to me. Just know that if he goes alone to these events, Joe will definitely be trying things, and mother-in-law will encourage it. I don't believe he will be as faithful as you think he will be. A faithful, adoring man stands up for his spouse and his relationship. He is not doing that. Destiny says, I'm of the opinion that she's already his side piece. A woman wouldn't be that bold if she didn't have any reason to believe what she is saying. And Material Cellist says, to be honest, next time just embarrass your husband, mother-in-law, and the ex and say, are you two banging? Is that why you don't stop her being all over you and mother-in-law keeps inviting her to all the events? Is that it? Because if it is, just let me know and I'll step aside. I don't need this high school drama in my life. And if not, then act like adults and keep your hands to yourself. And mother-in-law, keep your friends in line. This is a tricky one. Definitely seems like a situation that can be salvaged if you draw a strict boundary like that one in that suggested comment. But it's been going on for so long, and yeah, I don't think she'd be doing it unless she had a reason to that OP is not aware of. You can cope all you want with this by saying, oh, he doesn't have the time to do it, but we've seen time and time again, people can and will emotionally cheat on you, and then physically, if they can get away with it, if they want to enough. I don't want to say go through his phone, but go through his phone, OP. OP then comes back 3 weeks later with another update and says, Dear husband and I met in college. At the time, he and his on-again, off-again ex had broken up, so I asked him out. If I'd known back then what I know now, I'm not sure if I would have bothered. 2 years into our relationship, I still hadn't met his parents. He hadn't met mine because my family is a disaster, which is an entirely different story, but from what I could tell, his parents seemed fine. When I asked why I hadn't met them, he joked that his mum didn't like me because of his ex. Oh man, hindsight's 20/20, huh? I can't recall his specific words, but that was the general idea. Anyway, I treated it like a joke, because he did, and as time progressed, it felt less and less like a joke and more like the startling truth. I finally got to meet mother-in-law and father-in-law a few months down the line, and the welcome? Underwhelming to say the least. But I figured that it was just me having weird expectations. His family is Italian, so I'd done a little crappy research on what to expect, in addition to asking about his family. I thought they'd be a little warmer, but they weren't downright rude to me, so it was still a win in my book. As time passes, I tried to warm up to mother-in-law, but nothing worked. Her indifference slowly turned into thinly veiled disdain. For one of father-in-law's birthdays, I got him a handmade, expensive as hell, I still think about that goddamn wallet, it enrages me, Italian leather wallet with dear husband's, boyfriend at the time's, approval. Turns out Italians have a superstition against gifting empty wallets, which made the gift a bit awkward. But father-in-law didn't make a big deal and even gave me a coin to turn it into a purchase instead of a gift. We laughed, and I thought things were fine, until I found the wallet tucked away in my dear husband's apartment a month later. I found out from him that mother-in-law apparently said that she got father-in-law a better one, so mine wasn't needed anymore. When that happened, and why no one bothered to tell me, I don't know. Oh, and father-in-law fell ill shortly afterwards, which I'm pretty sure she blamed on me too. Mother-in-law speaks fluent English, but for the first couple of months of knowing her, I was led to believe that she only spoke Italian, because that's all she would speak around me. Granted, I could have asked dear husband about her level of English, but it just didn't occur to me. I assumed one would speak English around company that didn't speak their native language if they had the ability to. Imagine my shock hearing him speak fluent English for the first time. Not to me, can't remember the context, but still, what the hell? And don't get me started on wedding planning, an absolute nightmare. Mother-in-law nitpicked everything. We had a smaller budget, largely due to me, and she made sure that I felt lesser for it. She mentioned wanting to be involved, and she and father-in-law were footing most of the costs, so I said yes. My bridesmaids helped deal with her, but eventually, I cut her out of the planning entirely, because having her around was starting to suck the life out of me. She also made a big deal about my parents not attending or paying for a portion of the wedding. My family and I were completely estranged at the time, and she didn't quite seem to like that either. She'd rant in Italian, and while I didn't understand much, I knew she was shit-talking me. Oh, and she's a classic mama's boy enabler. They infantilized dear husband growing up, and there was a time where we couldn't buy groceries without her input. He is her golden boy. I've heard her refer to him as her miracle child. She has not had difficulty conceiving that I know of, but he's the only boy that she gave birth to. When friction would rise between mother-in-law and I, he'd try to keep the peace, but still took her side in many situations. He only stood firm when she insulted my upbringing or tried to make me feel unworthy of marrying dear husband. Both things I appreciated immensely because those are sore subjects, but I wish he'd done more at times. He isn't blameless in this either, but this post isn't really about him. Suffice to say, I have many a story of how shitty and cold mother-in-law could be towards me. But then I got pregnant, and her attitude did a complete 180. Suddenly she was offering to babysit, cook meals, knit clothes, etc. She even kissed me on both cheeks when she came to see us after labor. This woman had never voluntarily touched me before this point, I don't think. We started cooking together, and she taught me family recipes and some niche Italian phrases commonly used in the village their family is from. Dare I say, we bonded. I thought we'd finally gotten past whatever the initial problem was. Maybe having kids with her son was enough to prove that I was here to stay, so she decided to warm up to me. I don't know. I had no close maternal figures in my life. I was no contact with my narcissistic mum since college, and hardly any contact with my grandmothers. So this felt incredibly cathartic. I wasn't racing to tell her my secrets or confide in her, but toying with the idea that we might be able to build up to that point made me happy. I had postpartum depression after the twins, and having her around to help was a godsend. I was hesitant at first, but she proved herself to be beyond trustworthy, and my husband and I were absolutely exhausted. I love my gorgeous girls, but 2 kids at once made me the bitchiest I've ever been. My stress levels were through the roof between feeding, nursing, changing, burping, soothing, etc. My husband was equally exhausted, and just when we would feel hopeless, mother-in-law would offer to come over, let us sleep, eat, go out, just do whatever we needed to recharge. We would talk, usually about the kids, but I just felt excited that she wanted to hold conversation with me. In the past, she hadn't bothered. If she called, it was her son's phone, and they'd speak, and then she'd hang up. But suddenly, she was asking to speak to me as well. There was something extremely validating about it all, and I was happy to put the past to bed in favor of this new change. But recently, through a situation that's related but not the focus of this post, I realized she never respected me or my relationship with her son. For the past decade, mother-in-law has been inviting my husband's ex to family gatherings and turning a blind eye to her blatant advances on him. She was introduced as a family friend, so I thought nothing of it initially. Plus, as mother-in-law's and I's relationship improved, I assumed any malice she showed toward me would naturally fade. She had been inviting husband's ex to family events prior to me giving birth, and continued to do so well after. I don't know why, but I made the dumb assumption that because it continued, it couldn't have been in bad taste. We had gotten past our bad blood after all, so if she was still inviting dear husband's ex, it couldn't have been with bad intent. Or so went my idiotic logic. But after posting about my situation, I realized that I was so horribly naive about everything. Then, a few weeks ago, I came across a post of a man disparaging his mum for treating her daughter-in-law like shit, and then switching up when she gave birth to her grandchildren. And then it clicked. That is exactly what happened to me. Mother-in-law's kindness truly may never have been genuine towards me. Rather, her love for her grandchildren outweighed any disdain she held towards me. She wasn't warming up to me at all, she was tolerating my presence to have access to my kids. Reddit really is an eye-opening place. Needless to say, I feel absolutely crushed. Everything else aside, I truly thought my mother-in-law was in my corner. The past 5 years felt so healing because of our relationship. I've never had a sustained, genuine relationship with an older woman before this, and finding out that it was all fake is numbing in ways I can't explain. I feel so effing stupid, which is saying quite a bit considering I didn't think feeling like more of an idiot was possible for me right now. I just wonder how starved for attention I must be to have missed such clear signs. Grieving a relationship that only existed on my end is effing hard, and coming to terms with my own lack of awareness and disillusionment has been a battle, among several others, that I just feel like I am effing losing. I feel a bit pathetic, all things considered, because how did I not realize? And now all these thoughts flood my mind of what she's been telling my children when she's with them, whether or not extended family is in on it as well. I have been a mess. God, I feel sick. There is certainly many layers to this situation, but this one hurts much more than I thought it would. I'm gonna stop here because I've already written ample, but I am more than going through it. Straight Paper says, I think this is a prime example of how childhood abuse basically primes a person for a life of dysfunction. I bet that if OP sat down and wrote the chronological love story of her relationship with her husband the same way she did with her mother-in-law's relationship, it would be underwhelming. I'm sure it would be bare minimum things that a friend or acquaintance would do, and it's peppered with low-effort, grand gestures. The truth of the matter is that she needs to start making her exit plan, develop some marketable skills, build a community outside of her husband's family, and get some therapy. And if she decides to stay, get some therapy and learn some damn Italian. And Lady Eclectic says, God, it's so hard to distance yourself from toxic situations like this when hubby doesn't have your back. Even a divorce wouldn't be enough because OP is now tied permanently via their children. I don't see how this can work unless hubby gets his head out of his ass and covers for his wife. But he's still sucking at his mama's teat, and that'll never change. Yeah, I don't see it changing much either, unfortunately. This is a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation, and is why so many people say, well, break up before you get married and have kids, because imagine the shit show after that. Sorry to see you stuck in this situation, OP, but as people in the comments have showed you, there are ways around it, there are ways to cope with this, and it's not the end of the world. I personally see this ending in divorce because I think the husband has shown irreconcilable behavior and actions towards OP that favor the ex and his family above her, and consistently does these things. He's consistently failed OP in this situation, and it's really sad to see. Anyway, guys, let me turn this to you. What are your thoughts on this situation? What advice would you give OP? Let me know in the comments down below. With that said, let's move to our next story. This was posted by a throwaway account and is titled, My 32 female, boyfriend 36 male, deleted my dead brother from my Instagram friends, and he doesn't seem to understand or care that I'm upset. 6 years ago, my twin brother Sam died in a horrible accident on the freeway. It was one of the biggest accidents in our state. My only comfort is that he died immediately. The police said that he most likely had no idea anything was happening around him. Anyway, before he died, Sam was a huge social media user, mostly on Instagram and Snapchat. I never followed him on Snapchat, but I followed him on Instagram. He made thousands of posts about his life, friends, family, and music, and he was an amazing singer. After he died, I would go to his account and just scan through his accounts. I mostly watched a few videos that he made where he does a dialogue for ESL speakers. He taught English to ESL students for extra money. I'd often pretend he was speaking to me. I know it's not healthy to listen to my dead brother's voice every day, but it just became a habit. A few weeks ago, my boyfriend had been urging me to break free from this. He told me that I need to move on. I did start. I would only watch one video or even not use my phone until right before I went to bed. But last night, I went to check my brother's account, and I saw that it was gone. I was upset. I texted my sister and she said that she could still see his account. My boyfriend told me that he blocked my brother on my account. I was annoyed, but simply thought that I could just go back to following him. But my brother's account was private, and our family couldn't access his account years ago. The reason why he blocked him is because he thought that I was in love with my brother. Oh, brother, this guy stinks. And even accused me of once being intimate with him, my brother. I wanted to vomit. He's my twin. We spent every single day together. Even when we grew up, we went to the same university. At the time of my brother's accident, we were roommates. I loved my brother, but not in a sick way. My boyfriend never even met my brother. He and I only started dating 2 years ago, but after this, I don't know if I can and should continue this relationship. My boyfriend keeps saying that I should move on, that what he did wasn't a big deal. But it was to me. Our mutual friends agree that I should just forgive and forget, but I feel like I'm grieving again. Am I living in fantasy land? Get rid of the mutual friends. Get rid of him, OP, because what in the goddamn is he talking about? What are they talking about? Being like, you know what, yeah, he has a point. Maybe you were having an incestuous relationship with your twin brother. Yeah, maybe you're the problem, OP. Who are these people and where did their brains go? Who the hell is he to block your brother from your account? What a disgusting action. You're allowed to grieve however you want. He can say it's unhealthy from a distance if he wants, but for him to directly intervene is disgusting. That man holds negative value in society, and I want to remove him from it for doing that to you. Beautiful Mistake says, Jesus, get out. OP replies, I have to. I honestly don't see myself forgiving him. My sister's allowing me to use her account, so the pictures aren't gone, but still. Why would he do this? Sunkissed Butter says, okay, but also, your boyfriend is jealous of your dead brother. I'm sorry to put it so crudely, but it is time to wake up. OP replies, you are so right. Pyluda says, this is a massive red flag, and you really should reconsider this relationship. This man decided he knew better than you about what would be best for you, and is now denying that any damage was done. What he did is bad enough, but that he accused her of being in love with her own brother? Jesus, run like the wind. And 410 Rider says, your boyfriend just decided for you that blocking your late brother's account was the magical solution to your grief? That's not how it works. Grief isn't a switch that you can just flip, especially when it's someone as close as your twin. You finding comfort in watching those videos is totally normal, and nobody gets to take that away from you. But then he takes it even further, accusing you of being in love with your brother. Dude, what? That's not just out of line, that's a whole different zip code of messed up. Grief is one thing, but him jumping to those accusations? Yeah, nah. Look, you've been taking steps at your own pace, and that's how it should be. He doesn't get to dictate how you handle your loss. Honestly, it's not about forgive and forget, it's about respect, and he clearly bulldozed that boundary. You're feeling like you're grieving again because, in a way, you are. He took away your way of connecting with your brother. Also, your friends saying just let it go? That's a hard pass. You deserve better than someone who not only doesn't get your grief, but makes it worse. And OP replies, he told me that he was just joking when he said that. It was not funny. This happened yesterday, and I'm still very upset, and I don't see myself ever forgiving him. He tried tickling me this morning to make me laugh, but I'm just so hurt. OP comes back a few days later with an update and says, I kicked him out. I gave it a few days for me to calm down, but this was just such a breach in trust. He still thinks that I'm overreacting, and I've also cut ties with our mutual friends. They were mostly his friends. This incident made me realize I need to spend more time with my family. I've been chatting more with my sister. After Sam's death, I was a bit cold towards her, but she has helped me a lot these past couple of days. Also, thanks to some amazing people on here, we were able to get into Sam's account. I'm now the owner of it. Thank you all. And lastly, Sam, I miss you every single day. ActJ30 says, how insecure does a guy have to be jealous of his girlfriend's dead twin brother? Good for OP for getting rid of this weirdo. Technical says, people are so weird about twins. Honestly, it sounds like he was thinking about her relationship with her brother way too much. R10 says, imagine doing this to a grieving partner and being delusional enough to think that it's anything but grief. And Stay Calm says, I can't. I have 3 brain cells and a soul. I do love me a happy ending, as happy as it can be, I guess, in this case. I'm so happy that OP got out of there, I'm happy that she cut ties with her friends, and got access to the account. I was not expecting that, but that is very much welcome news. But what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. With that said, let's jump to the next story. This one was posted by user UsedEstablishment92, and it's titled, My son only eats food that I throw at him. Just to be clear, I'm not whipping ham hocks at him. My 14-month-old son thinks it's funny to throw food from his high chair. So funny that he'll forget to eat it. He's got a pretty good arm too, for a baby. About a week ago, he was eating blueberries and cut up pieces of strawberry and watermelon, and he kept throwing them at me. Finally, I got fed up and tossed a blueberry back at him. It bounced off his chest. He looked at it, then back up at me, and broke into the hardest laugh that I've ever heard come out of him. I threw a few more pieces of fruit and he was cracking up, but then he reached into his high chair and ate a whole handful of it. Normally, he would just eat one bite at a time, and this then went on until he had eaten everything that didn't fall on the floor. We've been keeping this up for the past week. Sometimes I throw the food right into his mouth, but so far I've missed every time. I'll be honest though, I'm a little bit worried about tomorrow because it's spaghetti night. That's so cute, OP. I'm glad to hear that you're finding a way to make the kid eat at least. To find a fun way to lighten the load and get them to actually eat takes one task off of your already very much full plate. Looking forward to hearing how spaghetti night goes. A deleted user says, super effing cute, but just as a precautionary tip, remember he's still young, so if you do yeet something into his mouth, be careful with anything that could get lodged in there. I remember my firstborn choking on a bit of apple pie when she was around that age, and at the time, I hadn't learned CPR for a young child and was absolutely helpless. Thankfully, one of her uncles was there to save her, but that day will forever be burned into my mind. Delu18 says, so I'm pretty sure you're just using the wrong words here, but CPR is chest compressions for breathing and blood flow, which won't help much if someone's choking. Please don't try to perform CPR on someone who's choking. Heimlich maneuver is what you want to do if someone's choking, and if it's a small baby, you should give it some firm back slaps so they could cough up whatever is choking them. And just an FYI with baby CPR, it's the same as for adults except you use 2 fingers instead of your entire hand, and obviously much less weight. And Nope says, my brother was sort of like this. He was too busy playing to have food interest, so the doctor told my mum to give him little pieces of food in a lunchbox and have him carry it around. That's how he ate for months. Back up to the post, OP gives us an edit and says, wow, I'm surprised this got so much attention. I'm tossing breakfast at him now. Eggs, fruit, and toast, but I will post an update after spaghetti time. I don't feel comfortable putting a picture of him on the internet, so you'll just have to use your imaginations. Edit 2. Some people are worried he might choke if I throw food in his mouth. I'm a really bad shot, but I also had to learn baby Heimlich and CPR because his older sister had, or has, such a sensitive gag reflex and choked on food constantly. Like her gag reflex is so bad that she has to have a warning on her chart when she goes to the dentist because she will throw up or gag if you touch the back of her mouth. When he started eating solid food, I didn't want to take any chances, so I also bought a thing called a LifeVac that apparently sucks objects out of a baby's throat if they're choking. I've never had to use it, but it's right next to his high chair just in case. I appreciate all the concern for my baby though. Thank you for looking out for him. And OP comes back not long after with an update and says, well, spaghetti night was a success, as long as you define success as he ate food. I was surprised that he immediately started eating it without having to play our little game first. I made him a plate with a couple little twirls of pasta, and he started grabbing fistfuls and chowing down right away. He's half Italian, so I guess it's in his blood. After a few good handfuls though, he was ready to play and started whipping noodles at me and my daughter. Because he's an uncoordinated baby though, he's ended up flipping them back onto his own head, which cracked up his sister, and when she laughs, he laughs. To be honest, I didn't end up throwing too much food at him tonight, mostly because he was doing my job for me, but also because I just got caught up in watching my kids play together. He still got ridiculously messy though. Afterwards, I put him right in the tub, but he was like an Italian bath bomb. The water was orange and had all the little flakes of herbs and Parmesan cheese, so I had to drain it and start again. While I gave him a bath, my husband started the task of cleaning up the high chair and its surroundings. He shouted, "How did he get the spaghetti in the lights?" Apparently, there were noodles in the light thing that hangs down above our table. I forget what it's called. There was some on the wall, but mostly just on the floor, and on the baby. All in all, it was totally worth it. Fireball Player says, nah, I'm gonna lose sleep trying to figure out how we got food on the chandelier. Busy Turnip says, thanks for the update. That sounds absolutely adorable. The Italian bath bomb gave me a good chuckle. You sound like a great mom. OP replies, thank you so much. That means a lot to me because my own mum disowned me. Most days I feel like I don't know what I'm doing, and I don't even have any frame of reference because I never had a good mum to show me. I've just been trying to do the opposite of whatever she did, like feeding your kids. But how to do it right is still kind of a struggle. Mighty Pitchfork says, quote, if you can define success as he ate food, as a parent, yes, this is success. And Tiazol replies, 100%. Lost track of the number of special meals I've made our toddler that he's just noped out of. Now he just eats what we eat with some tweaks. That was a good little mood booster to end today's episode, huh, guys? You love to see it, you love to hear it, and you don't love having spaghetti up on your chandelier, but what can you do? That is the price for happiness sometimes. If you guys have any stories to share similar to this one, I'd love to see them down in the comments below. But yeah, all's well that ends well with that one, huh? Anyway guys, that's where I'm going to end the episode. I do hope you enjoyed. If you did, let me know what you thought of everything down below, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!